Welcome to stage 9, and for this one we need to make one new part, and it's pretty similar to this right angle beam that we've already made, but it's got an extra curved edge along the top. We can use this existing part and we can make some changes to that. So from within your assembly, let's open that right angle beam part. You can also just open it directly from wherever you've saved it. Now let's save this as a copy and make some changes to it. So go to File, Save As, choose Save As Copy and Open. And if you don't get this pop-up, you can also choose Save As Copy and Open from down here on the left. Now let's rename it. So it's actually 5 by 3 long. So let's say right angle beam 5 by 3, and then I'm going to also say with curve. So it's right angle beam with curve 5 by 3. So we'll save as copy and open and press save, and then you can close the original document if you need to. First, I'm going to drag up to the very first feature. I'm going to edit the sketch that's underneath it, and I'm going to change it from 4 by 2 to 5 by 3. Firstly, we need 5 holes along the bottom. So I'm going to double click on the number 4 for the pattern, and I'm going to change that to 5. And that should add a 5th circle here on the right. However, if we look at the sketch, we can see that the vertical section is still linked to that 4th hole. So let's zoom in, let's delete those coincident relations. There's actually 3 of them. We don't know which one is the correct one, so let's just delete all of them. Then when we no longer have those relations, you should be able to drag that slot out to the right hand circle. So you probably have to drag them out one by one. So I'm going to start with the lower one. And then I'm also going to add that vertical upright one. And you should be again fully defined with 5 circles along the bottom. We also need to make that vertical section 3 high. But we didn't actually use a pattern for that because there was only 2 holes in it. So instead, let's double click on the dimension here. We'll change it from 8 to 16. We know that the spacing between the holes is 8 millimeters. So if we add another 8 millimeters on, that will give us space to add that 3rd hole. And then let's just add an extra circle using the circle tool, and we'll make it the same diameter as the others by using an equal relation. You can then exit the sketch and we should have something like this. Now if we look at the actual part, it's not as thick as this, so we now need to edit the feature. Let's edit that beam feature, and let's change the thickness down to 4 millimeters, but keep it as a mid-plane. We also have an axle or a cross shape on this right hand hole and the top hole. So click in selected contours and then choose those 2 circles. So it's the one in the right hand corner and the one at the very top. And then when you exit the feature, we should have something like this. So the holes on the left, right and top are all filled in. Now we can add those axle cuts. So let's drag down below the next feature. So we've got the first one correctly, but we need to add 2 more. To add these, let's edit that axle cut. Now for this lower cut, we can actually just mirror the one on the left over because they're both the same but just reversed. So let's get the centerline tool and let's draw a centerline going up from that middle circle, going directly vertically upwards. We can then use this for the mirror. Then I'm going to drag a box around everything here on the left except for those 2 horizontal lines. So it's everything else here on the left. We don't need to select those lines because they already go over to the other side, so we don't need to mirror them. Then I'm going to choose Mirror Entities from the Sketch tab, and for the Mirror About point, I'm going to choose that new vertical center line that we just made. And for the preview, you should have something like this. So we've mirrored everything apart from those horizontal long lines. Then let's press OK to add those, and then we can just drag those horizontal long lines out so they touch that large circle, like this. And then we have the correct profile there for us to cut out, and that was a very easy way to add that second sketch. Now we just need to draw a similar profile here at the top. And let's just do this one manually. So let's get the circle tool. We'll draw a circle out that's 4.8. Then let's use the center rectangle tool to add our 2 rectangles. We'll make those the same width and we'll make them 1.8. And then we'll make the ends of them tangent with the ends of that 4.8 circle. And then if you remember, we had to offset the second circle by 1.3. So I'm going to select that circular edge and offset that 1.3 millimeters like this. And then also select this one and offset it. And just make sure that both of the lines are solid lines, so you don't have any of those construction geometry options selected. Then next, if you remember, we offset these outer lines by 1 millimeter. So let's select this one and offset it inwards 1 millimeter. And then also this one on the other side, offset that inwards 1 millimeter. And then finally, we just need to add those small lines here and here. We can then exit that sketch and we've got everything we need. You'll probably find that we're still just cutting out that area on the left. So now we need to edit the feature. Then we need to go into the selected contours box and we need to choose those new profiles to be cut out. So here in the corner, it's all those areas of the cross. Then it's that little rectangular area and also that wedge shape area. And then also those two little tiny wedges. Then at the top here, it's the same thing. So it's the 5 areas of the cross, it's the little rectangle, it's the 2 tiny wedges, and then it's the larger wedge. And then press OK. And now we've cut out those 3 axle cuts, and it should look something like this. Next, we can drag down below the next feature, that's the hole surround. So when you do that, you'll probably find that you've got some kind of error on the sketch. That's just because we've changed the number of holes in the model. So let's click on that feature and edit the sketch underneath it. We can just delete that extra circle that we don't need, and then let's just add in this 4th one here. So let's just select that circular face and let's offset 0.7 like this. And then press OK, and we've now cut out all of those rim cuts correctly. Now let's go down below the cavity cut. So we're cutting out these 2 cavities on the left correctly, but we still have an error on the sketch. We're also missing the cavity on the right. So let's edit the sketch, and we can see immediately that there's a lot of errors in this sketch. So it's probably easiest just to completely delete everything in this sketch. Let's press Ctrl A and then press delete. So starting again from scratch, firstly, if you remember, we offset the circular lines of the existing hole ribs. So let's select the outer edges of all 4 of these holes. Let's convert them first, and then select those 4 converted circles, and then let's offset those circles. We just converted them first because sometimes offsetting directly like this doesn't quite work when you've got multiple edges selected. Then let's offset 0.55 millimeters. And before you press OK, we want the base geometry to be construction, and we want the offset geometry to be solid. Then we can offset the large outer lines. So from here, this top one is 1 millimeter inwards. Same with the bottom one, 1 millimeter upwards. Then on the right here, it's 1 millimeter as well. But on the inside here on the left, it's actually a little bit bigger to allow for the cavity in the corner. So let's select this one and offset that 1.2. Then let's zoom in. Let's select this curved edge and convert it. And then just drag the edge of that curve around until it touches this other straight line, something like this. Then also drag down the straight line on the left so it touches that new curve. You might have to zoom in to get this exactly right. So the end of the vertical line should be exactly touching that curved line. So it looks like a really small gap there that we're going to cut out. But actually, once we add the fillets in, this will add more material. Let's now exit that sketch, and you might get some warnings or some errors like this. You can just ignore them at this stage. Then we can edit the cavity cut feature, and we can choose which areas we want to cut out. So here in selected contours, let's just choose those 3 areas. So it's these 2 on the left, and then the vertical one on the right. And we're still cutting down blind 3 millimeters, so you don't need to change that. Then just press OK, and we've got those cavity cuts like this. Next, we can drag down again for the fillets, and you'll probably have to edit this feature. So click on it and press Edit Feature. And I'm just going to clear the entire selection, and then I'm going to re-add in those 12 fillets. So we've got 4 inside here, 4 inside here, and then also 4 inside here on the right. And we can see by adding that fillet, it gives a bit more material there on the right where that really small section was. Now before we drag down below the mirror feature, there's actually an extra curved arm at the top here. To draw this, let's start a sketch on the front plane. And we'll use the spline for this because it's not actually a constant curve all the way around. So get the spline tool, which is this one. We're going to start at the midpoint here on the left, and then just go directly up to the midpoint here on the right. We don't need any extra points in the spline. And it should look like a straight line initially. We now have this spline, and if you click on it, you should be able to see these handles, and we can move it around to roughly the correct position, which is like this. Now, if you don't see those handles, you can just go into your options, then use the search function within the options and just type in spline, and you should be able to see an option that allows you to turn on those spline handles. Now for this curve, we could just eyeball it and get something that's pretty similar, but actually we can add some tangent relations which should get it exactly right. Before we add these, we're going to add some center lines to help with adding the relations. So get the center line, and then here on the right, let's draw one from the end point of the spline going outwards horizontally. And then here on the left, let's draw another one from the end of the spline, but going downwards vertically. So the center line should start from the end points of the spline. We can then select the spline and select one of the center lines and add a tangent relation, and then do the same thing on the other end. And that will just mean that the spline joins that end point at the correct curve. Next up, we're going to offset this spline inward, so we've got the correct curve of the area we want to extrude. So I'm going to select the spline, I'm going to offset, and the thickness of it is 3.7. And make sure you don't have any construction geometry options selected. We want both of the lines, the base and the offset one, to be solid lines. So now we've got two lines that follow the same curve round like this. Before we can extrude this, we just need to add in some extra lines at each end to close the profile. So zoom in a bit, let's choose this curved edge and this straight edge and press convert entities. Then let's do the same on the other end, so zoom in, select the curved edge and the straight edge and press convert entities. We're now going to extrude that inside section. So go to features, extruded boss base. In the selected contours, I'm going to choose that middle section. And then we can do a mid-plane extrude, and it's the same thickness as the rest of it, so it's 4mm. Now, if you have problems making this, if you find you don't get your preview like this, just make sure you have thin feature unchecked. Sometimes this feature is automatically selected when you've got a sketch with overlapping lines like this. So we don't want thin feature, we just want a normal extrude. Then when it all looks good, press OK, and we've added that extra section at the top. And then I'm going to rename that as something like curve. Now we just need to cut out the cavity inside that top curve. To do this, let's start a sketch on that outer face. Then I'm going to select that inside curve, and I'm going to offset this 0.8mm. That's the wall thickness. Then let's also do the same with the outer curve. So select the curve, press offset entities, and then offset inwards 0.8. We also need to add just two more lines. So I'm going to select this curve and press convert. And then I'm going to drag the end point of the converted line around so it goes all the way around like this. Then let's do the same on the other end. So select the curved face on the end, press convert entities, and then just drag the line around so it's a little bit longer like this. Now we just need to extend the curve of that inner spline so it touches that new line that we just drew. You can do this using the trim tool. The trim tool actually allows you to extend items as well as trim them. So let's choose trim entities. Make sure you're on the power trim option, the first option. And to trim, all you need to do is hover over the line you want, hold down the left mouse button, and then just move the mouse to the line you want to extend to. And let's do the same on the other end. So click on the line you want to extend and hold down the left mouse button, and then just move the mouse over the line you want to extend to. We can then cut out this middle section. So let's go to features, extruded cut, and it's just a blind cut, 1.4mm deep. For the selected contours, choose that inner section, and again, make sure you don't have thin feature selected. You might need to uncheck that option. So we're making a cut, something like this, and let's call that curve cut. Now let's drag down below our mirror feature. So we've now got the fillets on the other side. We also want that cavity cut on the other side. So let's edit that mirror feature, and then click in the features to mirror box, and let's also add that cavity cut. So you can just click on it in the graphics area, or you can expand this second feature tree, and you can choose the curve cut feature there. And then the final thing to do is just add in the remaining fillets. So let's drag down below that final feature, and then we've only got the fillets on the left, so let's edit that feature, and let's add the remaining 8 fillets. So there's 4 here, and as we add the one in the top right corner, it gives even more material there. And then there's a final 4 up here at the top. So you should have 12 in total, and you can see now we've got that extra material there in the corner. You can then save this part, and in the next video, we'll complete stage 9 by adding this to the main assembly.